Hello and welcome back to another episode of my MotoGP 20 career mode here for our second season in the MotoGP class. Now it has been a long time since I've done one of these episodes, and for that I can only apologise. I don't really have the time to record career mode so much anymore, but as we're coming up towards Christmas I am back at home again now, so hopefully I should have a little bit more time, and then as we go into the Christmas holiday as well, I don't have any uni stuff to do, so I've got all my time back again. So we should be able to try and actually get this career mode season finished, and I'd like to start another one as well. But as it has been such a long time since the previous episode, we need to go and have a look through and see sort of how the championship stacks up. So this season has been very much dominated by myself. I've won every race bar one, or I think actually three. I think I've won every race except three up to this point. I think we lost at Austin, we lost at Brno, and we lost at the Kimi Ring. To be honest, this is more for me than anything, because you guys can just go and watch the videos back if you want to, but for me, I haven't watched any of the videos back, so I'm just trying to remember what was happening in this season. We have an absolutely huge lead, 113 points, which actually, heading into the next round at Aragon, means we can wrap up the World Championship at the next round, so it's quite feasible that we could do that, but Marquez can't finish on the podium. He needs to finish, I think, 4th or 5th. And we have to win the race, and it is actually Aragon, so it could be quite interesting. Marquez was absolutely dominant there in the previous season, of course, when we were on the Tech 3 KTM. For Fabio Quartararo is in 3rd in the championship, Maverick Vinales 4th, Jack Miller 5th, Dovi in 6th, tied with Valentino Rossi in 7th, Rins in 8th, just a couple points further back, Pol Espargaro in 9th, and Joan Mir in 10th. And this was actually that season that was ridiculously close. I remember the standings were always so close in this championship. If we have a look at the Teams Championship, we've got a massive lead now, 164, and it's actually pretty close between Monster Energy Yamaha, Repsol Honda, and Mission Winnow Ducati. If you have a look, there's only a few points between them. There's only 34 points separating them, and obviously you can have a 45-point swing in the Teams Championship, so yeah, there's everything still to play for all three of those teams. And in the Constructors Championship, very similarly, actually, we can wrap that up at this round, because look at the amount of points we get. However, rather than Marquez having to finish 4th or 5th, just top Honda has to finish 4th or 5th, which probably will be Mark, but just in case he has some sort of issue, or there is just another Honda that's faster, it's actually every single Honda rider needs to finish lower than that position. Aprilia only having 1 point that I see as well, so a very tough season for Aprilia. I think, actually I remember Cal Crutchlow picked up that point just because it was one of those glitched races where the AI got put 2 minutes behind. I'm presuming I'd stop development at this point of the season because I haven't got anything ongoing, so we'll have a look at the Moto3 Junior team, see if there's anything going on there. It doesn't seem like there is. So nothing going on with them, so we will just advance forward to the next week, which should take us to Aragon. Yes, it does. We've got a notification on the technical staff. A new chief engineer is available. So we've got then Ike Carrizo. He's a bit cheaper, but he's not as good, so we're going to refuse it. Not that it particularly matters, because like I said, I'm not really upgrading the bike by the looks of it, but for next season, or whatever team we end up in next season, because I'm still not sure what team to ride for the next season, it could be quite crucial. So still no notifications on the Moto3 Junior team then, so we will head straight into the weekend, and I'll see you at Aragon for qualifying. This will be interesting. I have not ridden this bike for months. So here we are then at Aragon. It is absolutely pouring it down here. Let's see who we are in Q1 with. So we've got Franco Morbidelli, Brad Binder, Danilo Petrucci, Francesco Bagnaia, Takaki Nakagami, Ike Lecuona, both the Aprilias of Crutchlow and Espargaro, Jorge Martin, Joan Zarco, Tito Rabat, and Alex Marquez. So in the past then, we've not been too good in the rain, so I'm just going to head straight out onto the track, and hopefully we can build up the tyre temperatures, and we'll probably actually have to go for a decent lap on the second one, because the first lap is never too great in the wet. So out of the last corner then, coming up towards the line to start our lap here in qualifying 1. The bike doesn't seem too great in the wet. It's not happy, that's for sure. It doesn't want to stop too well, doesn't really want to turn. It's obviously wheeling it a lot. I'm guessing because I was really in my element with this bike, so I've not upgraded it too much, and it's actually pretty bad in the wet anyway, so it probably does need upgrading so that we can actually compete in the wet races. Because I believe Brno and Kimi Ring, so 2 of our races where we lost and did miserably, they were in the wet. And Austin, of course, we got knocked off at the first corner in that AI pilot, so we're 8/10 off in the first sector. That's a huge amount of time off, so you can see really we haven't got the pace here so far. The bike trying to wheelie, absolutely. And down into turn 8, we've gone massively wide, completely missed that one. And that's going to be an invalid lap for sure. There's no way that will let us keep that. We'll have to look over his shoulder because there's a Vintia behind us, I believe. Yep, Zarco gone past us. So that lap is absolutely gone, although it's still valid, but yeah, it's absolutely destroyed. We'll have to see if we can maybe try and follow Zarco. We're 2.4 seconds off. See if we can actually make up any time in these sectors. I know it's not going to put us anywhere, but it'd be nice to see if there's any sectors where we actually do have the pace. It seems to rain in this season at every track that I'm not very good at. Luckily it seems we're in a position where I can't really lose the championship unless I do... I'm absolutely catastrophic for the entire season. So 2.9, so we lost another half a second. So whoever's got the provisional pole right now is doing a fantastic job, and as we said, actually running out of fuel a little bit, so we're going to go down to pound mode 1. And into the last corner again, I've gone in too wide. Bike doing a massive stoppie. This bike needs upgrading, seriously. So coming up towards the line then, what is the time going to be? 55.0, we're going to have to go for a couple more, I think that's for sure. So coming up towards the line then, what is this going to be? 52.7, so 7 tenths off from Morbidelli, so that's P6 currently in this session. We need to try and do a bit better on this next lap. So coming through the last corner then, going a little bit off the track there as we come up towards the line. What's the time going to be? 51.8, that's fastest top of the session by 1/10 of a second. So we've just managed to pull it out there. Obviously there's 7 minutes in the session to go, but we'll end it here, and hopefully that's good enough to get us through into qualifying 2. So massive amount of improvement there then on that second, well actually it was the third lap wasn't it, but it was the second proper lap because you can't set a decent one on the first lap. So then we went through along with Franco Morbidelli, a lot of riders out here. Jorge Martin had a bit of a glitch there, being 3.6 seconds off the pace. A little bit weird that happens sometimes in this game where random AI is just miles off the pace compared to everybody else. Only just getting through really though, because we're only 1/10 quicker than Morbidelli, and as the championship leader we should be probably quite easily getting through into qualifying 2, so I'm expecting this to be quite a difficult qualifying 2 session, but hopefully if we can get in the sort of top 6, top 5 area we should be within a shout for the victory. So here we are then for qualifying 2, so we're here with the front running riders. Soft is definitely going to be the way to go for both qualifying and the race because the temperature just isn't really there, and that's definitely something I was struggling with. On that last lap I managed to kind of put a bit of temperature into the tyre, so that's how we managed to actually do a fairly decent lap in the end, was just having a little bit more temperature. So we'll head out onto the track. First lap will be a throwaway of course because we've got to heat up the tyres, and let's see what we can do on the second one. So Quartararo has currently just gone fastest with a 51.9, so it's in the region of the previous session by the looks of it, so hopefully if we can try and translate that pace across we should be fairly good. Although apparently Quartararo's just set a lap, but he's also just come out the pits in front of us, so yeah, that's a little bit weird, that one. So as we come to the end of that lap then, it's right behind Quartararo now, so only 3 tenths off on the very first lap, so that's quite good considering we were actually around 7-8 tenths off most of the lap, so we found a good amount of time in that final sector. So over the line then, 3 tenths off the time, that's still 7th place apparently, that's unbelievable. Only being 3 tenths off and that's 7th. Quartararo didn't really help us out though in that last sector by coming back at us through the last turn. I was trying to focus and do a decent lap, but he re-overtook us, so we're definitely going to have to try and do another better one. So as we start another lap, Fabio was really disturbing us on that lap. You can see why we're about 2 seconds off. They sort of kept passing each other, so it cost a lot of time, but he's now boxed, so hopefully with a little bit of clean track in front of me I can try and beat this time. So through the final turn then, the end of this lap, what is it going to be as we come up towards the line? 52.2, and that's 3 tenths off, and that's 8th position. That is how close this grid is, so we're going to have to head back to the pits to get some more fuel and have another go at this one. So as you can see, Marquez has set the bar even further. He's now done a 51.3. So we've got some more time to find, that is for sure, but we've only got this one lap to try it. So coming up towards the line then, we're going to end up in 11th position because we didn't beat the time. So it's so close, this grid. Marc Marquez, though, has absolutely destroyed everybody compared to all the other gaps, but the rest of us are all quite close, except Dovi, who is absolutely miles off. The only reason we're not last in this session is because Dovi was so far off, but we're extremely close to Valentino, only 2 thousandths away from him. But Marquez then on pole by nearly 3 tenths of a second ahead of Miller. Viñales very close behind him. And then my 2 teammates only 3 and 4 tenths away from Marquez respectively. So Yeah, I don't think I've quite performed too well, but the wet is very difficult on this game because the tyres just don't get up to temperature. That's the main issue, and I can't ride how I need to if I don't have the tyres up to temperature, so it does affect me a bit more. That's why I'm absolutely dominant in the dry when we get to the wet. I'm absolutely nowhere. Quartararo ended up 7th then after being on pole for most of that. Obviously, like we said, we're behind Rossi, just in front of Dovi, so we've got a lot of work to do in the race. But first of all, let's go see how Hernandez and Jackson got on in qualifying, and let's see how they're going to get on in the race. So then, down here on the grid, Daisy Jackson then has got 10th place on the grid, and Manuel Hernandez 12th, so a pretty good qualifying for both of my riders there then. I'm hoping that they're pretty good in the wet. I think if I remember correctly, Hernandez is an absolute god in the wet, so hopefully that will help him out in this race, because I don't think the qualifying really takes into account their wet weather stat particularly. So we'll start this race, and hopefully our two riders can try and get some good positions. If I remember correctly, it's the Snipers team that we're trying to battle for. I think it's 5th in the Teams Championship, so hopefully we can try and beat Arbolino and Salac in this race with both of our riders. But let's get this race started, and let's see what they can do. So then we're watching Daisy Jackson here. You can see Antonelli on pole, Masia alongside, but lights out and away they go. Pretty good start there for Daisy Jackson. She always has these monster first laps. She doesn't always qualify so well, but her first laps are always amazing. She's up to 6th place. She's going around the outside of John McPhee as they go through the first corner. There's Mino as well on the left-hand side. I think she's dispatched Mino. It looks like Hernandez has not had the best start. Looks like he's kind of been a bit swamped. But Jackson currently in front of Arbolino, and that is what is important. Is that... I thought that was Antonelli for a second in front of her. I thought he'd had a terrible start, but no, it's actually his teammate Suzuki in front of Jackson. Jackson looks like she's going for a move on the inside of... Ooh, that was close with Suzuki there. I thought she was going to go up the inside of him, but she couldn't quite get it done there. Looks like Suzuki's now trying to go around the outside of Mino, and Rodrigo is not too far behind as well. Let's see what Hernandez is getting up to. He's lost a position on this first lap, looks like to Alonso Lopez on the inside there. We'll cut back to Jackson. You can see Nepa in the background going a little bit wide there. Only a little bit. He didn't actually go over the curb. Foggia looking at the inside. Oh, Foggia has just passed Arbolino on the inside. Arbolino is dropping back like a stone. So that could really help us out here. Hopefully Hernandez can try and get past him as well. So we go through the long left-hander. Can Jackson try and close up to the back of Suzuki for a bit of a slipstream down? I'm not sure how long the back straight is, but it's very long. I was going to try and say the length, but I actually have no idea what it is. I think it's over a kilometre, but I suppose that's not hard considering how long it is. So as we go into the tricky turn 12, obviously been lots of crashes here. I was struggling here massively in qualifying. Jackson a fair distance away from both Suzuki and Vietti behind her. So obviously Suzuki in front of Vietti behind her is what I meant, but it kind of sounded a little bit wrong. But out of the little chicane then, bringing them onto the straight, you can see Mino a little bit out the seat there. Is Jackson closer to get some sort of slipstream off the back of Suzuki down towards the last corner? It doesn't look like it. Looks like if anything Vietti is closing up on her rather than her closing up on Suzuki. Rodrigo down in 10th place, I just saw there. Be interesting to see what Hernandez is up to. We'll swap to him in a second as we just watch them go through this final corner. Where is Hernandez? Hernandez is now back up into 12th, so he's got back in front of Alonso Lopez. Now he's right behind Arbolino, so if we can pass Arbolino, that would be fantastic for our championship. But to be honest, I don't think Petronas are too far away from us either, so we don't want McPhee all the way up there in 4th position if we're not scoring too well. Looks like Hernandez was looking for a move on Arbolino there, but he couldn't quite pull it off into the first corner. So sliding quite a bit there, Daisy Jackson, especially on the Moto 3. Looks like she's got a fairly decent amount of temperature in that rear tyre actually, but the front tyre is very cold. I'm not actually sure what tyre compounds they have. Actually, there might only be one Dunlop wet tyre for the Moto 3 riders. Not sure why that Michelin logo in the background is so pixelated, but there you go. She's looking behind her, so Jackson taking a look behind her to see who it is. It is Celestino Vietti still sat there. Hopefully she can try catch to the back of Suzuki just to try and keep in front of Vietti. We don't want her to lose any more positions. It'd be nice if she could gain some, but if she could just hold on to this 7th, I'd be fairly happy with that. They're both currently within the top 15, so that's nice, and I think they both also qualified in the qualifying objective zone, so we're going to do very well for the team sort of reputation this weekend if they can stay like they are. Hernandez still in 12th place then, chasing down Arbolino still, but he's getting away from Iagoro behind by the looks of it, so that is a positive, that's for sure. So Antonelli doing the fastest lap of the race, pulling away at the front, but our riders were staying pretty static on that lap. Looks like Mino's going for a move on McPhee in front, so Mino tried to overtake McPhee, so that's good for us in the Teams Championship. He hasn't quite pulled it off, but if those three in front start battling, this will play into Daisy Jackson's hands, and yes, Suzuki is now trying to look for a move on Mino, so if those three in front do scrap, Jackson will close up. I mean, she already is closing up already. I don't know why I said already twice, but there you go. She's closing up to them. Can she try and get a top 5? That would be absolutely amazing for our team. I think we've only had 1 or 2 top 5s this season. I can't really remember. I don't think we've had a podium yet. We've had a pole. Hernandez put it on pole at Assen. I remember that sensational pole position. But the race did not go very well for him. He had a terrible start. He lost so many positions. It looks like in the background he's still behind Arbolino. If we quickly take a look back, yes he is. And now he's under pressure from Alonso Lopez once again, because Lopez has found his way back past Iagora behind him. So we've got to watch out for Lopez. Lopez versus Fernandez. Oh, but Jackson's looking at the inside of Mino, because Suzuki just passes Mino there. It looks like Mino is probably now struggling. So he's lost his momentum a little bit after going for that move on obviously John McPhee earlier on in the lap. He looks at the inside for the first corner. It looks like he's maybe lost a bit of momentum. So she's currently in a Sky VR46 racing sandwich. Can she try and find her way past Mino? Hopefully she'll get a pretty good tow on this straight. But we've got to watch out for Vietti behind, because Vietti is definitely closing in on her. And then there's Foggia behind. She should be safe to Rodrigo at this point, but you never know if these guys in front start battling. She's right on the back of Mino now, and hopefully she can try and out-drag him down towards this last corner. Can she do it? The engine is fairly upgraded on this bike, so it should be pretty good. And obviously Daisy is a pretty good rider. Her stats are pretty good at the moment. But down towards the final turn, she's not quite close enough to be able to make any kind of move, but hopefully she should be within range on this next lap. And Suzuki is now looking pretty feisty with John McPhee, so even more battling could end up happening in front of her, and that could really bring them all back towards her. Antonelli stretching his lead in front of Messia and Fanati, and this is the battle for 4th place, all the way down to Foggia in 9th. You could argue that, although it's really these top 4 and perhaps Vietti, but Foggia is there, so it could be a really, really tight battle down to the end, because we are on the penultimate lap of the race now. Suzuki has found his way past McPhee, so I think it might be McPhee that was kind of backing up this pack a little bit. So if Mino goes for another attack on McPhee, this could help Jackson. Hopefully she can try and capitalise, because last time she was unable to do so, but it looks like she's probably going to struggle on the brakes with that cold temperature front tyre. Perhaps it wasn't pushed enough on the opening laps. I can see in the background there, Hernandez is still behind Arbolino, so hopefully Hernandez could try and get past him, but he has been stuck behind Arbolino for most of this race. It looks like Lopez looked at the inside then, but he couldn't quite pull it off, luckily for us. Ooh, Jackson's looking for a move on Mino. She taps him a little bit there on the way through. I think they almost tapped. I think they did tap. It looked like they almost did, but the hitboxes are a little bit off, so I think they actually did touch a little bit there. Luckily, both riders staying on, but Jackson getting nice and feisty now. Can she try and catch up to the back of Mino? We're coming up towards this section. Obviously, she gained quite a bit on him on the previous lap, but she wasn't able to pass him on the back straight or into the last corner. So they're running out of time very quickly, so it's only going to be just over a lap to go. I don't think she'll be able to get McPhee at this point, unless, obviously, Mino passes McPhee and holds them both up quite drastically. But I think Mino is definitely a possibility here to go through second half of the chicane. She didn't quite pick that up too well. She probably could have picked it up a little bit earlier and got a bit of a better drive. That is obviously a place where the AI are quite weak. So as they start the final lap, Mino is going for a move on McPhee down towards the first corner, so this could be another position for Jackson. Mino really moves over on McPhee there, but he's actually made the move stick, and to be honest, it was a very easy straight line pass with just a little bit of braking, so it hasn't really held them up at all. So I don't think this is going to help Jackson, so they've been very, very static since his first lap. She got up into 7th place, which was a fantastic start, but unfortunately she just wasn't able to pick up any more. But luckily so far she's held on. She just got to hold on in front of Vietti for the rest of this lap, and that would be absolutely fantastic for her. If we have a look back to see what Hernandez is up to, he's up to 10th place now, so we've missed quite a bit with Hernandez. He's picked off both Arbolino and Rodrigo now, so a really, really good late race charge here from Hernandez, but I don't think he's going to quite be able to catch up to the rider ahead of him, who is actually Dennis Foggia. So yeah, he's got a big gap to make up to that group in front where his teammate is. So it's nice to see that both our riders are fairly close in terms of pace. Hernandez just being a little bit more in the late race, and obviously Jackson on the first lap, where in these short races that seems to matter a little bit more, obviously being quick early on. McPhee definitely out of Jackson's range now, so she's just got to hang on to this 7th position. Looks like she should be able to hold off Vietti. She's been doing it the whole race with little competition from him, and he's sort of been struggling to stay with her in the same way that she struggled to stay with McPhee and Mino ahead. And for the team championship, that's pretty good, because McPhee is only just in front of Daisy Jackson, so it's not like there will be a massive swing or anything like that. And I think we actually have a fairly decent sort of points haul over that team, because in the last few races we've been getting results like this, finishing just behind John or even just in front of him. with one rider, and then the other rider a couple of places back, whereas Powie isn't picking up anything. So even with this, we're going to outscore Patrona Sprinter Racing, so that will be very good. As we go down towards the final turn, Jackson has kept in front of Vietti, so it's going to be a 7th place for Jackson. Looks like it's going to be a 10th place for Hernandez, because he's absolutely clear of Arbolino behind. As we go through the final turn, then Antonelli is going to win this race. A fantastic race again from the Italian, but as they come up towards the line, then Jackson is going to come home in 7th position, and Hernandez is going to come home in 10th position, so a pretty good result for both of my riders. So then we achieved both of the objectives then for the finishing in the race in the top 15 positions, and I think actually as well we've managed to achieve the qualifying objective. I think we have to get on the top 4 rows, and I believe they were 10th and 12th on the start, so they both made up 2 or 3 positions. Obviously Hernandez made up 2, Jackson made up 3, so pretty good result for both of them there. So if you look at the lap times, we didn't really have to pay, Jackson had the pace of the riders around, obviously 2:07.0, 2:07.0 for Vietti, 2:06.9 for Foggia, but Hernandez actually had a slightly faster lap, so he was a little bit quicker than the people in front. Obviously McPhee was a little bit quicker again, and Mino and Suzuki were quite a bit faster, actually, by a good way. I think that was on the last lap. They both really up their pace and started to close up on the leaders quite a bit. Obviously Suzuki getting the fastest lap there. But hopefully Hernandez can start to try and get these first laps together, because his late race pace is amazing. It just takes him a long time to get into his rhythm. So in the Riders' Championship then, Yama Masia continues to lead, 13 points ahead of Antonelli, and then 33 ahead of Suzuki. So Data Jackson down in 11th place and Manuel Hernandez in 12th. They're pretty safe in those positions, actually, to be honest, because Hernandez has pretty much double the points of Philip Salach behind him. So Hernandez is pretty solid in that 12th position. Obviously he's about 20 points back of Jackson as well, so I don't think he'll be overhauling Jackson unless he has an absolute storm in these last 4 races of the season. John McPhee a little bit ahead of those two as well, so I don't think he will be losing his 10th position. Lopez, though, he could be under fire from John McPhee. There's only 10 points in that there is enough time to feasibly make that up in the next few races, especially if Lopez continues to perform as he has been. Obviously at the start of the game the Husqvarnas was really good, and then they're not so much now, so I think that's why he's quite high in the championship, because at the start of the season he was probably pretty competitive at the front, but now not so much. So we'll see the Teams Championship then, how is it going with that? So we are 6th place in the Teams Championship. Like we said, we are in front of Patrona Sprinter Racing. That's who we were battling for a long time, but then our riders started to get more consistent, either beating or being right behind McPhee, and then Powie not picking any points up allowed us to catch and pass them fairly easily. We're only 7 points behind the Snipers team now. Obviously we outscored them quite drastically in this one, because both our riders beat both of theirs, and I don't think Salach even scored, so only 7 points in it there. We can definitely set our sights on this 5th in the Teams Championship, so hopefully we can try and do that. But now it is time for the MotoGP race. Let's see what we can do. 11th place on the grid. It's going to be a hard one. So then down here on the grid at Aragon, of course, Marc Marquez, our main championship rival, on the pole position. We are absolutely miles in front, so we're not going to wrap it up at this track. I think that's fairly obvious. It'll be very unlikely if we do. We need to try and get about 4th position. If we're talking realistically about what I could do, I'd need to try and get 4th, and Marquez would need to actually crash out of the race, and I don't even think 4th would be that realistic for me, of course. So we're just going to try and finish as high up in the order as we can, minimise the amount of damage, and maybe try and wrap up the championship at the Chang International Circuit. We have done that in the past, of course, with our Moto2 World Championship was wrapped up there after the massive accident, I believe there was then. I think it involved my teammate, a couple of my championship rivals as well, which ended up giving us the championship a lot earlier than expected. But 8 laps ahead of us then in this Aragon GP, so let's start the race. Let's see what we can do. It's going to be a difficult one though, especially on these opening laps when there's absolutely no grip from the tyres.
The final riders have taken their place on the starting grid and everything is ready to start the race. Just a few seconds to go and the lights at the Aragon track will signal the start of the race.
So we absolutely need Marquez to be passed by both Miller and Vinales and they run it into the first corner, but will that happen? I don't know, but waiting for the lights to go out here. Lights out and away we go. We've not had the best start actually off the line. Valentino Rossi goes to the left hand side. As we go down towards the first corner, I'm hitting the brakes fairly early. I wanted to be quite conservative. Dovi's up the inside of us as we get on the power, sitting up the bike. Rossi's on the inside of Oliveira. We're trying to go around the outside of Oliveira. There's absolutely no grip here. We're around the outside of Oliveira now, around the outside of Pol as well. We've had contact with Pol. That was pretty poor actually, but I lost the rear. That's kind of why we've tapped him a little bit. We're now up the inside of Pol Espargaro, again sliding on the curb. There's absolutely no grip on this opening lap at all. Marquez still leading the race, it looks like. We're on the power, so we're now up into 9th place. So we've made up 2 positions. Pol Espargaro looking at the inside of us. And can we try and pass Franco Morbidelli into this right-hander? Not quite. So both the Petronas Yamahas in front of us, Rossi and Morbidelli. Side by side with Morbidelli, past him we go. I've kind of edged him out a little bit there. Sorry, Franco. Sorry, Franco. I didn't mean to. Brad Binder has gone down behind, so I'm not sure what's happened to Brad. But we've definitely cost Franco a position there to Polo Spagro. Our teammate Jean Mir now in front of us, because Rossi goes past Mir. Another crash for Binder. So Binder really not having any luck in this one. I'm not sure how he's managed to crash twice. I'm guessing it's been clipped as he's come back on the circuit. Or maybe it's been collected by a bike that got took out by his as he's respawned. I'm not sure what's happened there. We'll have to have a look at that on the replay. I can hear a bike behind. Spagro is definitely desperate to get past us. The rear again. Absolutely no grip at all in this race. I've just realised I'm in power mode 2. I need to try and change it if I can, but it's just trying to press so many buttons at the same time because in the wet you have to really ride differently. We're on the cutback. We've passed Jean Mir here. We're going to get a bit of slipstream from Valentino Rossi. So we should be able to blast past him. And can we try and get past Vinales as well down towards the final turn? We've got a bit of slipstream off of him. We go towards the last corner. Vinales closed up on Quartararo as well. So as we go through the final turn, we're looking at the inside of Maverick. Yes, we have. We've got past Maverick now. So up next is Fabio Quartararo. So I said that fourth would be impossible. Well, at the end of the first lap, it's right here. We've got 7 more to go. But I feel like our progress will definitely stop here because the AI, as much as I've been struggling with the lack of grip, the AI really struggled with the lack of grip on the first lap. Of the wet races, whereas I can sort of slide the bike and ride around it for that opening lap. The AI really can't, so we need to try and see if we can catch up to Fabio Quartararo, but he is getting away from us already. But it was a very interesting opening lap. We made up a lot of positions. There was a little bit of contact with a couple of riders. Rins, my teammate, sat in third. I could see Marquez is starting to stretch away from Jack Miller in second, though, unfortunately. So if we do end up getting on the podium, I don't think we'll be beating Marquez because he's going to be checked out by the time we get there. So here we go down towards the last corner. We're going to make the move on Fabio Quartararo. Yes, we are. Up the inside into fourth position. I actually wasn't expecting that. We gained a lot from the slipstream there. I was not expected to pass him there at all because I'd barely kept with him the whole lap. We were just sort of in the slipstream range, but that's how much it's worth here then. So 53.0. So we're actually 2 tenths quicker than Marc Marquez on that lap. So this race, for me, is not over because Marquez actually isn't stretching away as much as I thought he was. Miller seems to have picked up the pace. He's now keeping back up with him. Same with Rins. And we're lapping even quicker than both of those two. So perhaps we can actually still win this race, which would be unbelievable considering the conditions. And from 11th on the grid, I wouldn't have expected that at all in my wildest dreams. We've really made inroads on Rins here. Look how much we are catching him up. And the same with Miller. Miller is catching right up to Marquez. In fact, he's looking for an overtake now. So Marquez initially was stretching away, but Miller has closed him up and he's actually pulling away from Rins a little bit. So we are going to have to try and pass our teammate as quickly as possible. Trying to get the drive out of this long left. We've got a massive gap back to Fabio Quartararo now, so we haven't got to worry about him at all. 1.3 seconds, which obviously doesn't seem massive, but considering how we only overtook him less than a lap ago, that is a pretty big gap to have over him. And we should be able to line up some passes here. We're all sliding. I saw Miller slide about the same place on the corner that I did just before. So he slid and then I slid very shortly after. Miller really looking for a move on Marquez. Now we're trying to maximise our exit out of this chicane. And this should be allowing us to pass Alex Rins here. So we're in the slipstream. Yes, we are. To the left-hand side of Alex Rins. There we go, up into third position. Will Miller be able to take the lead from Marc Marquez to go down towards the final turn? It looks like he is looking for it, but he hasn't quite managed it yet. But that's allowed us to close up massively to Jack because he's just not been able to get past Mark down towards that last corner. He's kind of had to go in a little bit earlier. So as we come up towards the line, 52.1, so another fast lap of the race to me by almost a second quicker than I was on the previous lap. Looking at the inside of Miller into the first corner, but no need to rush, no need to do anything dodgy. We've got half the race to go, and we are clearly the fastest man on the circuit right now. So we've just got to pick them off one by one. If we have to slipstream them all on the straight after the chicane, then so be it. It seems like a very easy pass to make. We have got to watch out for Rins behind. He could definitely try and pass us, put a bit of a thorn in our side, although he is my teammate. So it actually might be still possible for us to wrap up the championship in this race. I highly doubt it, because Marquez does seem like he maybe has found a bit of rhythm again. But we could actually extend our lead potentially here, which would be absolutely unbelievable. Here we go, then we're all over the back of Jack Miller. I think we're going to pass him through this left-hander actually as we go at the inside of Jack. Yes, we do, so we've gone past him. We both lose it again at the same place in the corner. I've lost it again as we got the inside of Jack Miller. Will that allow him to have some run as we go down towards turn 12? On the brakes, is he going to be on my inside? Not quite, but I've had to leave a little bit of room. Actually, he is on my inside, but just a bit too far back, so good job I left him the room, otherwise there could have been contact again. The rear slides, as we try to tip it over. Marquez has actually got a bit of a bigger lead because of that, because obviously we had to pass Miller. Miller will definitely go for it into this left-hander when really I don't need him to. He hasn't gone for it, so that's good. So we've got a few tenths back to him now. We need to see if we can try and pass Marc Marquez on the next few laps. Obviously we've got 4 to go, that should be enough, but remember back to Le Mans in the previous season, Marquez held us off for an extremely long time and we weren't able to pass him, even though we had about half the race to do so. I'm really struggling for grip on these, on the edge grip through some of these longer corners. As we come up towards the line, Marquez is probably going to set a new fastest lap. No, he's not. I'm actually quite a bit slower than I was on the previous lap, so we've still got some pace, that's for sure. We've got plenty of fuel. Well, it's kind of marginal with the fuel, but at least we're not under target, so I can kind of just go to power mode 0 a little bit. But we need to have a look at trying to pass Mark before we do that, and I need to probably try and put a bit of a gap into him, and then once I've done that, we can have a look at saving the fuel. Oh, both of us snapping through this long left-hander. It is impossible to find the edge grip here. You can see I'm actually overheating the tyre a little bit, which is better than in qualifying, probably why we've got pretty decent pace, although my pace is actually slower than in qualifying. It's just that AI are nowhere near their qualifying pace, which is just a bit of a flaw with them in this game. They're ridiculous in qualifying, but then they lose so much pace between qualifying and the race, it makes them beatable. But Marquez actually has done that sector really well, and I don't think I'm going to be able to pass him down towards the last corner at all, because I'm way too far behind. We'll have to see. I'm going to pick up a very nice slipstream here. It's not going to quite be enough though. We're going to close right up to him though, I believe, as we go towards the final turn. Yes, we are, and I've actually braked on the curb, which wasn't the best idea. I just didn't want to hit him up the back. Don't know if maybe I can try and get a bit of a cutback line, hopefully with a bit more grip. Yes, it actually has kind of worked, not massively, but it's still better. So we come up towards the line, 52.2, so we both picked our pace up quite drastically on that lap. We've closed right up to the back of Marquez. We've actually hit him as we go into this corner. We've got a penalty as well, so I've absolutely tripped myself up the back of Marquez on lap 6 of 8, and that's allowed Miller to be all over the back of me again, so we've got to get my head down. We've got to try and beat Marquez, and now we have to beat him by 3 tenths as well. We're lucky to not have any damage from that. So as we come up towards the line then for the penultimate lap, so we're starting the penultimate lap now. Marquez has got half a second over us. We only took a couple tenths out of him after that mistake on this lap, so it could be quite difficult to actually pass him here. So as we go down towards the final corner, then we have closed up to Marquez a little bit, but it's not been enough so far, so it's going to definitely be a last lap job on Mark here. It's going to be difficult though, because he's got quite a big lead over us. I actually braked way too early for that last corner. That was a massive mistake. Cost us quite a lot of time, and I'm going to have to try and save the fuel here as well. We're pretty marginal. Marquez actually does a new fastest lap, a tenth quicker than I went on that lap, so he actually pulled away from us. So as we come down towards the final corner, then Marquez has managed to pull away from us even more, so he's absolutely dominated in this race. Marc Marquez has held on after that pretty bad mistake where we almost hit him through turn 1. I'm just trying to make sure that I've got the gap to Miller, of course, because we got a pretty unfair penalty for that. As we come up towards the line, then Marc Marquez wins, myself second, and Jack Miller in third. So it was extremely close then in the end between myself and Miller, only 1/10 in it. You can see 1.4 and 1.5 seconds back of Marc Marquez. So good job, we actually executed that last sector pretty well without any mistakes in it. I'm a bit disappointed we didn't actually win the race, because in the middle of the race we definitely had the pace to take the lead and pull away, but unfortunately it wasn't to be today. We weren't able to quite do it, so we had to kind of settle for second behind Marquez. Well, I say settle for second, he actually pulled away at the end. I didn't have the pace on the last couple of laps, I just didn't have the grip left anymore. And obviously after we made that mistake, we lost such a big amount of time, so we lost the toe. I think that was the main thing. We didn't have the toe over him anymore, so I bridged the gap, so I probably used up a bit more of my tyre, a bit more of my edge grip to actually catch up in the first place, and I was using the toe to try and save the tyre a little bit. We weren't able to do it after we made the mistake because we were outside off the slipstream range, but well done to Marquez. A pretty good victory there. It looked like he was actually going to probably drop down the order a little bit at one point in the race when Miller, Rins and myself were catching up, but he managed to hang on. Rins actually ended up in 4th place and Mir in 9th, so we were top Suzuki, and but by only a bit of time. We were only about 7 tenths in front of Rins, so it was a pretty close finish. So in the Riders' Championship then, Marquez has taken our lead down to 108 points, so still a pretty big lead to be honest. With 5 races to go, we should be able to wrap it up in the next one if we do a fairly good result. As long as we don't lose 8 points to Marquez, we should wrap up the championship. Everybody else is now mathematically out of it as well. As you can see, Fabio Quartararo is 146 points behind, so Quartararo is out of the championship hunt now. It's only between myself and Marquez, although really it's not between him. But massive changes in the championship then. Dovizioso not having the best race, dropping down a couple positions. Rins moves up 1, Rossi moves up 1, Miller jumps ahead of not Fabio Quartararo, Maverick Vinales, although he could end up in front of Fabio Quartararo, he's not too far behind. So this middle of the championship and the middle of the top 10 is extremely close. It could change any moment. So if we look at the teams championship then, like I said, all three of those teams, Repsol Honda, Monster Energy Yamaha and Mission Winner Ducati, they're still scrapping away, and there you go, you can see Repsol Honda move back ahead of Monster Energy Yamaha in the teams championship, only by 6 points though, so there's still all to play for. Looks like Mission Winner Ducati are dropping back a little bit now, so obviously not having quite as good of a performance as they could have done, with Dovi underperforming a little bit, but they're not miles away. They could still mathematically do it. Well, actually, I'm assuming Petronas could probably still mathematically do it, but realistically, those three are still within a fairly good shot of second in the Constructors, so it will be quite interesting. Not sure if we've actually won the Constructors yet, I don't think so, but we probably will win it in the next couple of races, I assume. I mean, we've got it won effectively, but you know, mathematically we haven't won it yet. They can still technically win if we score nothing towards the end of the year and they score maximum points. And looking at the Constructors Championship, a very similar story really to the Riders Championship, only 1 point difference actually in the gap. But 107 points is the gap between ourselves with Suzuki and Honda in second, so still not quite wrapped it up yet. However, it's certainly possible it will be wrapped up in the next race, because Suzuki don't need to lose 7 points to Honda, and obviously if I'm not losing 8 points to Marquez, then we're probably not going to lose 7 points to the top scoring Honda rider either, so hopefully we can try and wrap up the Constructors and the Riders Championship in the next race. But let's go have a look at the replay then, see what happened to Brad Binder, and then we'll head into the career hub and end off the episode there. So then, on board with Brad Binder, you're coming out off this right-hander down towards the backwards corkscrew section. Let's see what he does. So he hits the brakes, tips it in, clips Rabat, loses the front, and down he goes. He slides up into the gravel, so we'll have to see how he crashes for this second one. So he's rejoined the track here. He's turning very sharply left. He's going towards the wall, and he's just hit into the wall. That's how he's actually crashed the second time. He's actually just turned into the wall. Well, the AI, there you go. This is probably another prime example of the AI in this game are not that good. Because he's literally just rode into a wall and fell off. And the first one kind of shows a bit of a flaw with them turning in on each other like a lot. You see, Binder's coming from behind. He's closing up massively on, not Zarco, sorry, it's Rabat, isn't it? He's closing up on him. He just clips him a little bit, you can see on the front. Turning in, just clips him. It looks actually quite a hefty clout, and that just washes his front out. Down he goes, and then to compound his problems, he then rides into a wall, and that's Brad Binder's race over. He's lucky to actually still be in the race. Usually the AI retire from 2 crashes that frequently. So then we didn't really gain much reputation from the weekend, because in qualifying we gained absolutely nothing, but from the race we gained 12,400 reputation points, which takes us up to 672,900. But on the credits front, we've had a pretty good weekend, to be honest, because I think you only gain them from the race anyway, don't you? So we gained 31,574 from our race for getting that second position, and we gained 80,932 from the Moto3 race positions, of course, because we met the objectives with both riders there. So we gained 112,506 overall, which takes up to 950,458 credits. And for the Moto3 team in general, it's been a fantastic weekend. Like I said in the race, they both qualified, in the top 4 rows, so they both get the 39 extra prestige for that. They both got in the top 15, so 155 prestige from Daisy Jackson, 125 from Manuel Hernandez for the 7th and 10th places respectively. And then on the research front, they've done a really good job as well, getting 650 research data. So on top of that, with the 358 team prestige, you can say it's been a fantastic weekend for them. So then we've got a couple of notifications on our front, but we'll go have a look at the Moto3 Junior team. You can see there is a notification for planning for next year. So sponsorship offers, new offers will be discussed in the upcoming weeks. Same with rider recruitment, so we've got a couple of notifications for that. But the technical director, we've already got a really good one. But there is another guy trying to apply. There's not a lot in it, to be honest. You can make the engine a little bit better. I'm definitely get rid of this guy because they're only A+, but we've already got an S+ guy, and I think we've already hired him for next year, so it'd be a bit of a waste of money to sign another one, so I'm not going to bother doing that. Nothing we can do on the team development, but on the bike development, can we upgrade anything else? So we've got 1,446 research data when we can't actually do anything because we need 2,000 at least to do any more upgrades. 1 more week as well until the second frame upgrade has come in, so we'll have to decide which path we want to go down for both of these. I think this one is better because it's 4% performance, and I think for this one as well, because I don't really know what the reliability does. I think that just makes the rider stay on, because I've not seen any reliability issues for the bike. And even if there is any, they're so rare that even having a little, plus 4%, well, because there's like basically no chance of it happening anyway, it makes not really much difference. So if we have a look then at the personal manager and the technical staff management, so we've got some proposals then. So Suzuki are trying to sign us for another season. So for now we will leave it, but we'll need to see what kind of teams are interested. So if we look at factory teams, I'm not going to bother with any fake teams. So they're all interested, they're all pretty high. Well, Suzuki are not interested because we already have a contract with them. Let me know in the comments which team you think we should go for next year. Remember as well that there will be the Avintia Sky Racing team for the next season, because we're going to jump onto the next season with the 2020 mod. Not 2020, the 2021 mod. The 2020 mod was from last year. But yes, so we'll jump into the next season of Career Mode when this one is finished with my 2021 mod that you can find on Race Department, rather than this one that we've got on currently. So let me know what team you want us to go for. We can basically sign for any of them at this point because they're all very much interested. So we'll have to see what's going on. We might stay with Suzuki, not 100% sure yet, but we also might change to a different team. But let me know what you guys want to see with that in the comments below. If we'll have a look at the chief engineer then, we've got another one applying. He's fantastic on the aero, but not really good anywhere else, so we'll refuse that because the aero in this game doesn't matter very much because the aerodynamics, there's barely any upgrades for them. But that really brings this episode to a close then. I hope you have enjoyed the return of MotoGP 20 Career Mode. It's been a long time since we've done it, but finally recorded an episode. I won't stay on too long because my throat's starting to hurt from speaking for this long. I've not done it for quite a while, so kind of caught me off guard a little bit there. But I hope you did enjoy that episode. Obviously a pretty miserable qualifying for myself there, but the race, very good. We had a nice comeback, a lot of overtakes, big mistake with Marquez as well. So Marquez did end up beating us there, but we did get second from 11th on the grid, so I'm not going to complain about that. A pretty good recovery ride. It was the wet conditions as well. Next time is the Chang International Circuit, probably most likely to be dry there, I would assume. So yeah, hopefully we can try and get back to winning ways, but second position, not too bad. But like I said, I hope you did enjoy that one. Hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. Hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.